Have you ever wondered why some people seem to disappear from your life without any drama, confrontation, or explanation? What if I told you that one of the rarest personality types has mastered the art of revenge so subtle, so calculated, that you might never even realize it's happening until it's too late? Today, we're diving deep into the mysterious world of INFJs and their unique approach to justice. If you've ever crossed an INFJ and thought you got away with it, think again. Their revenge isn't loud, it isn't messy, and it definitely isn't what you'd expect. 1. Understanding the INFJ mind, the foundation of silent power. Let's start with the basics. INFJs, known as the advocates or the counselors, make up less than 2% of the population. They're often called the rarest personality type, and there's a good reason for that. These individuals possess a unique combination of traits that makes them both incredibly empathetic and surprisingly strategic. INFJs are introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging. But here's what most people don't understand about this combination. It creates a person who can read people like open books while keeping their own thoughts completely hidden. They're emotional sponges who absorb everything around them, process it deeply, and remember it forever. Think of an INFJ as a master chess player who's thinking 20 moves ahead while everyone else is focused on their next turn. They see patterns that others miss, understand motivations that people try to hide, and most importantly, they never forget how you made them feel. When an INFJ feels wronged, they don't explode like some personality types might. They don't create drama or seek immediate confrontation. Instead, they retreat into their minds, where the real magic happens. They analyze, they strategize, and they plan. 2. The door slam, the ultimate INFJ weapon. Now, let's talk about the most famous INFJ phenomenon, the door slam. If you've never heard of this term, buckle up, because understanding this concept is crucial to grasping how INFJs operate when they've been pushed too far. The door slam isn't about slamming actual doors. It's about cutting someone out of their life completely and permanently. One day, you're in their inner circle, sharing deep conversations and meaningful moments. The next day, you might as well not exist. But here's the thing that makes it so devastating, you might not even know why it happened. INFJs are notorious for giving people multiple chances, often more than they deserve. They'll forgive, they'll try to understand, they'll make excuses for your behavior. But they're also keeping score, even if they don't realize it themselves. The door slam happens when an INFJ's tolerance finally breaks. It's not usually one big event. It's the accumulation of smaller hurts, disappointments, and betrayals. When they decide you're out, you're really out. There's no arguing your way back in, no dramatic confrontation to hash things out. You're simply erased from their world. 3. The information vault, how INFJs collect and store everything. Here's something that might surprise you about INFJs. They remember everything. I mean everything. That offhand comment you made 6 months ago? They remember it. The way you treated that waiter when you thought no one was paying attention? Filed away. The promises you broke, the lies you told, the times you were inconsistent? All stored in their mental database. INFJs don't collect this information maliciously. It's just how their minds work. They're natural observers and analyzers. They notice the little things that others miss: body language, tone of voice, the gap between what someone says and what they do. This information vault becomes incredibly powerful when an INFJ decides they've had enough of someone. They don't need to gather evidence or try to catch you in lies. They already have everything they need. They've been unconsciously building a case against you for months or even years. When they finally decide to act, they have all the ammunition they need. But unlike other personality types who might use this information for public embarrassment or dramatic confrontations, INFJs use it strategically and quietly. 4. The strategic withdrawal, disappearing without drama. One of the most effective forms of INFJ revenge is simply disappearing. Not ghosting in the modern sense, but gradually withdrawing their presence, energy, and investment from your life. This isn't done out of spite, but rather as a form of self-preservation and justice. INFJs understand that some people feed off drama and confrontation. They know that engaging with toxic individuals often gives those people exactly what they want: attention, emotional reactions, and the opportunity to manipulate further. So instead of giving them that satisfaction, INFJs choose a different path. They start by reducing their availability. Those long phone calls become shorter. The immediate responses to texts take longer. The invitations to hang out become less frequent. To an outside observer, it might look like they're just getting busy with life, but it's actually a calculated strategy. This gradual withdrawal serves multiple purposes. It protects the INFJ from further harm, it removes the toxic person's access to their energy and insights, and it forces the other person to confront the consequences of their actions without the INFJ having to explain or justify anything. 5. The mirror effect, reflecting your own energy back. INFJs are natural empaths, which means they're incredibly skilled at understanding and matching other people's energy. When they want to send a message, they can use this ability in reverse. Instead of absorbing your negative energy, they reflect it back to you. If you've been dishonest with an INFJ, they might start being selectively honest with you, sharing uncomfortable truths at inconvenient times. If you've been unreliable, they become unavailable when you need them most. If you've been manipulative, they start seeing right through your tactics and refusing to play along. This isn't done with malicious intent, but rather as a natural consequence of their changed perspective of you. Once an INFJ sees your true colors, they can't unsee them. They stop making excuses for your behavior and start responding to who you really are rather than who they hoped you could be. The beauty of this approach is that it's completely authentic. INFJs aren't pretending to be something they're not. They're simply no longer extending the grace and understanding they once offered freely. 6. The network effect, how INFJs influence others without speaking. Here's where INFJ revenge gets really sophisticated. INFJs are often the emotional center of their social groups. People trust them, confide in them, and value their opinions. When an INFJ changes their opinion of someone, that shift often ripples through their entire network. They don't have to say anything negative about you. They don't have to gossip or spread rumors. Simply by changing their behavior and energy around you, they influence how others perceive you. People notice when the group's emotional anchor starts treating someone differently. Other people in the group might not understand exactly what happened, but they pick up on the INFJ's changed energy. They start questioning their own interactions with you. They become more observant of your behavior. Without the INFJ having to say a single word against you, your reputation within the group begins to shift. This isn't manipulation, it's the natural consequence of authentic relationships. When someone who's known for their good judgment and emotional intelligence changes their opinion of you, it makes others pay attention. 7. The truth serum effect. Asking the right questions. INFJs have an uncanny ability to ask questions that cut straight to the heart of matters. When they've decided someone has crossed the line, they might start using this skill more strategically. They ask questions that expose inconsistencies, reveal true motivations, and make people uncomfortable with their own behavior. These aren't aggressive interrogations. INFJs are too sophisticated for that. Instead, they ask innocent-seeming questions that somehow manage to highlight exactly the issues they want to address. They might ask about your reasoning for certain decisions, your feelings about specific situations, or your thoughts on hypothetical scenarios that eerily mirror your actual behavior. The person being questioned often doesn't realize what's happening until they find themselves defending actions they thought were hidden or justified. The INFJ doesn't argue or accuse. They simply ask questions and listen to the answers, allowing the person to reveal themselves. 8. The selective memory game. Forgetting what benefits you. Remember how we talked about INFJs having incredible memories? Well, they can also be strategically forgetful when it serves their purposes. If you've been using an INFJ's helpfulness, reliability, or emotional support without reciprocating, you might find that they suddenly can't remember to do the things that benefit you. That favor you always ask for, they forgot you mentioned it. The information you needed them to pass along, it slipped their mind. The emotional support you've come to depend on, they're not available to provide it. This isn't about being petty, It's about establishing boundaries and ensuring that relationships are reciprocal. If you've been taking advantage of an INFJ's giving nature, they might decide to stop giving you things to take advantage of. 9. The authenticity test, removing their accommodating nature. INFJs are natural accommodators. They adjust their behavior to make others comfortable. They smooth over conflicts, and they often put other people's needs before their own. But when they've been pushed too far, they stop accommodating. Suddenly, they're not available to mediate your conflicts. They don't adjust their schedule to fit yours. They stop making excuses for your behavior to other people. They become authentic to their own needs and feelings rather than constantly managing yours. This change can be jarring for people who've become accustomed to the INFJ's accommodating nature. Without someone constantly smoothing things over, conflicts become more apparent. Without someone always available to help, self-sufficiency becomes necessary. Without someone making excuses for poor behavior, accountability becomes unavoidable. 10. The long game, patience as a weapon. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of INFJ revenge is their patience. While other personality types might seek immediate satisfaction or quick resolution, INFJs understand that the most effective consequences often take time to unfold. They're willing to wait for natural consequences to occur. They understand that toxic behavior eventually catches up with people, and they're content to step back and let karma do its work. They don't need to speed up the process or actively participate in someone's downfall. They just stop interfering with it. This patience can be unnerving for people who are used to immediate reactions. When you expect someone to fight back right away and they don't, it creates uncertainty. You might find yourself wondering when the other shoe will drop, not realizing that the INFJ has already moved on and is simply letting natural consequences play out. 11. The energy redirect, focusing on what matters. When an INFJ cuts someone out of their life, they don't just remove negative energy. They redirect all that freed up emotional and mental energy toward people and pursuits that actually matter to them. This redirection often leads to significant positive changes in their lives. They might deepen relationships with people who truly appreciate them. They might pursue goals they've been putting off. They might discover new interests or develop existing talents. The energy they were wasting on toxic relationships gets channeled into growth and fulfillment. This positive transformation is perhaps the most powerful form of revenge because it demonstrates that the INFJ is better off without the toxic person in their life. Their success and happiness become living proof that cutting ties was the right decision. 12. The ripple effect, how INFJ boundaries inspire others. When an INFJ finally establishes firm boundaries and removes toxic people from their life, it often inspires others to do the same. People who have been watching the INFJ tolerate poor treatment might suddenly realize that they don't have to accept it either. This creates a ripple effect where multiple people start establishing better boundaries with the same toxic individual. The person who took advantage of the INFJ's patience and kindness suddenly finds that other people are less tolerant of their behavior as well. Again, this isn't something the INFJ orchestrates deliberately. It's a natural consequence of modeling healthy behavior and boundaries. When people see someone they respect taking a stand, it gives them permission to do the same. The psychology behind INFJ revenge. Understanding the deeper motivations. To truly understand INFJ revenge, we need to dig into the psychology behind it. INFJs aren't motivated by a desire to hurt others. They're motivated by a need for justice, authenticity, and self-preservation. Their approach to revenge is actually rooted in their core values. They believe in treating people with respect and kindness, and they expect the same in return. When someone consistently violates these basic principles, the INFJ's sense of justice is activated. But because they're also deeply empathetic, they understand that hurt people often hurt others. This understanding prevents them from seeking revenge that would cause unnecessary pain. Instead, they choose consequences that are proportional and fair. Their revenge is also about authenticity. INFJs value genuine connections and honest communication. When someone proves to be fake or manipulative, the INFJ's response is to become more authentic themselves, which often means no longer pretending that the relationship is something it's not. Why INFJ revenge is so effective. The reason INFJ revenge is so effective isn't because it's cruel or dramatic. It's because it's authentic and sustainable. When an INFJ decides they're done with someone, they're really done. There's no going back and forth, no on-again, off-again drama, no mixed signals. This finality is powerful because it forces the other person to confront the reality of their actions without the possibility of manipulation or negotiation. There's no opportunity to charm their way back in, no chance to promise change without following through, no way to avoid the consequences of their behavior. The effectiveness also comes from the fact that INFJs typically only use these strategies when they're truly justified. They give people multiple chances, they try to understand different perspectives, and they often go above and beyond to maintain relationships. When they finally decide someone doesn't deserve their energy, that decision carries weight. The warning signs. How to recognize when you've pushed an INFJ too far. If you're reading this and wondering whether you might have pushed an INFJ in your life too far, there are some warning signs to watch for. The key is recognizing these signs early, because once an INFJ reaches their breaking point, it's usually too late to repair the relationship. The first sign is often a change in communication patterns. INFJs are typically thoughtful communicators who engage deeply in conversations. If they start giving shorter responses, avoiding deep topics, or seeming distracted during interactions, they might be pulling back. Another warning sign is a decrease in their availability. INFJs are usually generous with their time and energy for people they care about. If they start being busy more often or taking longer to respond to requests for help, they might be establishing boundaries. You might also notice a change in their energy around you. INFJs are natural empaths who usually mirror and complement the energy of others. If they start seeming more distant or less engaged, they might be protecting themselves from further disappointment. Perhaps most importantly, if an INFJ starts expressing their boundaries clearly and directly, pay attention. This is often their last attempt to save the relationship before they decide it's not worth saving. The path to redemption. Is it possible to come back from INFJ's bad side? The question many people have is whether it's possible to repair a relationship with an INFJ once you've pushed them too far. The honest answer is that it depends on several factors, but it's always an uphill battle. The first requirement is genuine acknowledgement of what went wrong. INFJs can spot fake apologies and hollow promises from miles away. If you want any chance of redemption, you need to demonstrate that you truly understand how your actions affected them and why those actions were wrong. The second requirement is consistent change over time. INFJs don't just want to hear that you'll do better. They need to see evidence of that change. This means not just avoiding the behaviors that cause problems, but actively demonstrating growth and different choices. Even then, redemption isn't guaranteed. Some actions cross lines that can't be uncrossed. Some trust, once broken, can't be fully repaired. INFJs understand that some relationships aren't meant to be saved, and they're okay with that reality. Learning from INFJ revenge. What it teaches us about boundaries. There's actually a lot we can learn from observing how INFJs handle toxic relationships and seek justice. Their approach offers valuable lessons about setting boundaries, protecting our energy, and maintaining our authenticity in difficult relationships. One key lesson is the importance of consistency between our values and our actions. INFJs refuse to continue investing in relationships that contradict their core values, and this alignment gives them strength and clarity in difficult situations. Another lesson is the power of natural consequences. Instead of trying to punish people or force them to change, INFJs step back and allow people to experience the natural results of their choices. This approach is often more effective than direct confrontation. Perhaps most importantly, INFJ revenge teaches us that we don't have to maintain relationships that drain our energy or compromise our well-being. We can choose to redirect our time and attention toward people and pursuits that truly matter to us. The broader impact. How INFJ revenge changes social dynamics. When an INFJ removes themselves from a toxic dynamic, it often has broader implications for the entire social group or family system. Because INFJs often serve as emotional stabilizers and peacemakers, their absence is keenly felt. Without the INFJ to smooth over conflicts, mediate disputes, and provide emotional support, Other people in the group have to step up and take responsibility for these functions. This can lead to positive changes as people develop better communication skills and emotional intelligence. It can also expose problems that the INFJ's presence was masking. Toxic dynamics that were hidden behind the INFJ's accommodating nature become more apparent. This visibility can be uncomfortable, but it also creates opportunities for real change and growth. Moving forward, life after INFJ revenge. For the INFJ, life after cutting out toxic relationships is often significantly better. They experience less stress, more authentic connections, and greater alignment between their values and their daily experiences. The energy they were spending on managing difficult relationships gets redirected toward growth and fulfillment. They often discover that they don't need as many relationships as they thought. They just need better ones. Quality becomes more important than quantity, and they become more selective about who gets access to their time and energy. For the people who have been cut off, the experience can be a wake-up call. Some people use it as motivation to examine their behavior and make real changes. Others simply move on to find new people to take advantage of. The INFJ's response helps sort people into these categories. Conclusion: the quiet power of authentic boundaries. INFJ revenge isn't really revenge in the traditional sense. It's authentic boundary setting with natural consequences. It's powerful not because it's designed to hurt, but because it's rooted in truth, consistency, and self-respect. The silence of INFJ revenge speaks volumes. It says, "Your behavior has consequences." It says, "I value myself enough to remove toxic influences from my life." It says, "I choose authenticity over accommodation." If you're an INFJ reading this, know that your approach to difficult relationships is valid and healthy. You don't owe anyone your continued presence in their life, especially if they consistently disrespect or take advantage of you. If you're not an INFJ but recognize these patterns in your relationships, consider what message they might be sending. Are there people in your life whose behavior has changed toward you? Are there relationships where you used to receive support or accommodation that's no longer available? The key takeaway is that everyone, not just INFJs, has the right to establish boundaries and protect their energy. We all have the right to choose who we invest our time and emotional resources in. And we all have the responsibility to treat others with the respect and consideration we'd want to receive. INFJ revenge might be silent, but its message is clear. Authentic relationships require mutual respect, and some people aren't willing or able to provide that. When they prove this through their actions, they shouldn't be surprised when the consequences are equally authentic. Remember, the most powerful revenge isn't about hurting someone else. It's about protecting yourself and creating a life that aligns with your values. That's exactly what INFJs do, and it's exactly why their approach is so effective and so final. The silence isn't empty. It's full of self-respect, boundaries, and the quiet confidence that comes from choosing authenticity over accommodation. And that's a power that everyone can learn from, regardless of their personality type.